Welcome back to the Organizational Excellence Podcast, and more importantly, Happy New Year! This is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting, and today's topic is going to be a sensitive one, a tough one, and one that I believe many of you will be able to relate to. And it is about frustration and communication. And I think those two words go hand in hand. Those two words are related. And they are words that I believe you can manage each one individually and get yourself and your team in a better place. I find oftentimes when individuals are frustrated, which is often more of an emotional reaction to things, it's because we've not communicated well. So part of frustration is something, when I said you could manage it, you can manage your own frustration. So I think as human beings, we're always going to be frustrated in some way, shape, or form. It's just to what degree and for how long. Communication is something you also have a lot of influence over. And when you become frustrated, well, maybe communication is my tool to get myself out of this sense of frustration. Communication is, as I said, a tool. And when we start thinking about when I can use communication, think of just two instances. So, for example, if you're thinking about a team meeting coming up in the very near future, you might be frustrated over the fact that we discussed a new strategy in our office and what we're going to be implementing, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. Or maybe we tried it, and it was working for a short while, and now it's just evaporated. So we use that team meeting. The whole purpose of a team meeting is communication. So we use that as an opportunity to pull the team together, ensure that everyone hears the exact same message, and this team meeting, when we have meetings, communication by definition, I've talked about this in the past, communication by definition is message sent, message received. So just because someone's at the front of a room sharing information, lecturing people, call it whatever you'd like, if it's falling on deaf ears, we don't have communication. So if you feel like at times your team meetings sound more like this, and yet we really are more interested in this. And yes, it's a little bit corny, but I think you also kind of get the gist of this. Most people will discontinue team meetings because they don't end well. They end up in hurt feelings. They end up in miscommunication. They end up with people getting upset. And really, the whole point of the team meeting, again, is for communication. Two-way street. We share ideas. We share strategies. We share expectations. And then the rest of the communication should be geared around how do we make this happen? Let's work through your obstacles. Let's talk through the things that you're foreseeing as being a potential problem. And that way we're eliminating or reducing frustration of others. And when we see them implementing or changing patterns, making new things happen in our office, then our frustration level goes down. That communication is a tool to eliminate or reduce frustration. But again, as I said before, part of this is managing our own frustration because we don't want to go into a team meeting or go into a one-on-one meeting and just blast somebody. We don't want it to be like a fire hose and just go in and blast them with everything they've done wrong for a week and not provide any positive feedback whatsoever. And I'm not a big fan of lying to people and going in and telling them, well, you parked your car really well this morning, but let me tell you how terrible of a job you've done today. There's no point in doing things like that. If they're still here and they're still working, they've got to be doing things well. So managing our own frustration and ensuring that we're not going in and blasting people when we are communicating with people, the intent is really that we're changing things in some way, shape, or form. I could be changing, or it could be you changing. We're looking to typically change or share something. And if we go into it, and again, if it's falling on deaf ears, we're not communicating, which means we may need to at times manage our own frustrations, reactions, how we're coming across to people. So when you're thinking about your 2020 goals and thinking about 2019 and whether you got where you wanted to be or not, or you're stepping it up for 2020 and you're expecting that things are just going to need to be different coming from you in 2020, start thinking about the things that made you frustrated last year. Start thinking about how well you communicated in 2019 and how you will need to change that in 2020. So that is your Organizational Excellence podcast for today. I will be continuing the series on how to make 2020 a phenomenal year for you, so stay tuned.